Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, how are you all? I hope you all are fine at your places. So today we're gonna start new chapter, and the name of this particular chapter is Patterns of Social Inequality and Exclusion. So pattern of social inequality and exclusion. This is the chapter that we're gonna start today, right? And I would definitely tell you to start making your notebooks. I'll definitely tell you to start doing, textual questions that are there in your textbook, and maintain your notebooks, very time soon or anytime soon. I'm gonna check it, right? So start making your notes. Look, if you were there in 11th standard, I could say that you could be taking things uh, in less intensity, but since you are in 12th standard, you can't take things for grantedly. You have to be serious, right? It's not like due to this COVID-19 situation, your exams are not going to come, right? Your exams are definitely going to come, because till that time this thing will definitely I hope this situation will become better, and I hope the situation will come situation will be good for all of us. And you are in 12th standard, you got to be very serious, right? So Urvi has come in. So what I was telling you, you are in 12th standard, right? You can't take things for grantedly. You have to study hard. Look, if we are, Archita has also come in. So you have to be very serious, right? We'll start the next chapter after the completion of this book. We'll start the next book after the completion of this book. But we are left with another chapter that is there in this book. After the fifth chapter, we have another chapter that is in the form of the challenges of culture diversity. When we will complete the number six chapter, the challenge of culture diversity, then only we'll able to proceed further to study the next book, right? Okay, Mandeep, this is what I mean to say. Look, there are seven chapters. Look, there are seven chapters in this book, but out of these seven chapters, what we're gonna do, we we will just do five chapters, because I've already told you when I was taking your class in the initial days, when I was coming in your class, I told you that number one chapter is non-evaluative chapter. Non-evaluative chapter is that chapter which doesn't have any share in the marks, right? The It doesn't have any share in the total marks, of your final exams, right? So that's the reason it was just a kind of introductory chapter, right? Not important as far as your marks are concerned. So that's the reason we just did introduction of that particular chapter. And last chapter is something that is related to what? That is related to your suggestions for project work. So it is also has no role to play in your marks, right? So in this book we are going to do five chapters, and next book is what we're going to focus more, because it has got all the chapters, and we have to actually understand and study and cover all the chapters in the next book. But for this book, only five chapters, right? And we are on the, as far as this book is concerned, we are on the second last chapter, right? So what I was telling you, you all are in 12th standard, right? So your exams are definitely gonna come, right? So that's the reason it's important to cover chapter by chapter, because if we're able to understand things properly, we're able to complete things properly and at the right time, then only then only will come, at the revision. It's important to do as much as revision as we can. Then only things will become more clearer, and you know, uh, things will be more clearer, right? Then only. Okay, so today we're gonna start the next chapter, right? So maintain your notebooks, go through the PPTs that I've sent you, and try to learn the important concepts, and do work hard, right? So that's what I wanted to tell you. Okay, so let's start the class. So as usual, I'm gonna share the PPT PowerPoint presentation with all of you. Okay. I think I should now Urvi and Archita, they have come in, so I think I should take attendance with them as well. Let me see. Mm, okay, so this is in screen. Okay, so as usual, I'm sharing the PPT with all of you. Uh, this class is all about revision. This class is all about going through the topics again and again so that you can retain it for a longer time and it helps you during your final exams, right? So this is what I wanted to tell you. So today we're going to start the next chapter, right? And the name of this chapter is Pattern of Social Inequality and Exclusion, right? Look, whenever we start any concept, we got to understand certain things, right? First of all, it's important for us to understand that what the title, what this theme, or what this subject, or whatever that is written here on your screen, what does this mean, right? Now pattern means arrangement, right? Pattern means your the way things are arranged, the the way things are arranged, or the way things are, you know I would say, designed, the way things are formed in our Indian society. We're going to understand those patterns, right? Patterns of social inequality and exclusion, right? Now, we all know that there is inequality in our society, and that is what social inequality is all about. And not only inequality is there, but exclusion is also there, right? People are excluded. Certain sections of the society are excluded, right? Uh, so that's what gives rise to social inequality, actually gives rise to the exclusion. Social inequality of certain sections of the society is exclusion of certain sections of the society. And we're going to understand the pattern because, you know, the pattern basically in our Indian society, there has been a pattern, there has been a structure, there has been a kind of model, there has been a kind of arrangement of all those things, that have been set by, we people, that have been set by the Indian society. So we're going to understand that, okay, the pattern of social inequality and exclusion, that what were the issues regarding social inequality that was there in the Indian society, and now also they exist, unfortunately, but things have become better over the time, right? So some people are excluded also, used to be excluded, but now things have changed. I've already told you that things have actually changed. So you all must be thinking that social inequality or exclusion of which section of society? Social inequality and exclusion of, look at that, it is right there on your screen. Social inequality and exclusion of SC, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, women, uh, disabled, differently abled, that is disability. So in this chapter, we're going to study four sections of the society. We're going to study social inequality and exclusion of these four sections, right? So there was a time when scheduled castes used to be excluded. They used to face a lot of inequality in the society. And same with the case of ST, right? And women. It means that social inequality and exclusion is being done on what basis? On basis of gender. So that's women, right? It's very important. It's a very important issue to understand the inequality that used to be there in the society, and nowadays also, some kind of inequality is done. That's what needed to be changed in the society, right? So inequality on the basis of caste, inequality on the basis of tribe, exclusion or inequality on the basis of gender, right? Women and disabled, differently able mean disabled people. Disabled people are what kind of people? People who are mentally retarded, people who can't, who don't have, proper visual sense, people who lack, speaking, or any kind of disability can be there. People who are unable to walk properly. So you know these kind of inequality and exclusion happens with all these sections of the society. We're going to study that, and we are not going to study about social inequality and exclusion. We are also going to study the the achievements that these sections achieved, the positivity that came out of when they asserted for their identity, when they asserted and start demanding what they deserve actually. So we're going to understand what government did for them. We're going to understand what were the issues that they used to face. We're going to understand the positive aspect that come out of uh, that come out of the things, the bad things that were happening in the society. We're going to understand that as well, right? So I'm sure now you have got the understanding of the introduction of this chapter, that we're going to study social inequality and exclusion of SC, ST, gender, and differently abled, disability. So we're going to study these four sections, right? So people face discrimination because of their caste, that ethnicity is something related to race, tribe. I'm talking about tribal people. So people used to face discrimination on the basis of their caste, ethnicity, gender, disability, religion, right? Religion can also be studied, when we understand about overall inequality. Although the concept of religion is not there in your book, is not there in your textbook, you can take the example of minorities that are there in Pakistan, right? You can talk about certain minorities that are there in, obviously I have to take the name of Pakistan, right? They are not treated well because of their religion. They face discrimination because of their religion. So that's the reason it's important to understand these social inequalities and exclusion, right? So in this chapter we focus on four such groups. I've already told you that who have suffered from serious social inequality and exclusion, right? So there was not only social inequality but exclusion also. They were excluded from the society, right? Once, but now things have changed, things have become better. And how things have become better? Things have become better due to education. That's the reason I say that education is very important. Without education, no development is possible. Whenever we study development of any country, whenever we study development of any society, it is something that is definitely based on education. It's important to have literate, I'm talking about literate, not illiterate, I'm talking about the literate. It's important to have literate population. It's important to have educated population, right? Now people are getting education, people are becoming aware, people are respecting each other. They are not focusing on SC, ST, gender, what the gender is. They are not, they are giving respect and they are not discriminating. So that's what, education can bring. Education is very important. That's the reason I always say that. I always say the very famous quotation of Aristotle, that educating the mind without educating the heart is no education. Look, if we get the education and it is just confined to our mind, it means that we have not used that education in our practical life. It's important to do that. It's important to feel education, right? Then only we'll able to bring change in this society and ultimately in our nation and ultimately in this world, right? We have to contribute, and a person can contribute by getting education. It's important to have the education, right? And look, there is another quotation that comes in my mind right away when you talk about this quotation. you know we can't see things, or we can't observe things unless our brain doesn't know that. That's the reason I say that education is very important. People get education, they study all those things, they study all these concepts, they study all these social inequalities. Then the personality that comes out of education actually brings changes in the society. I'm sure you are understanding what I'm trying to tell you. I'm sure you are relating with me. I'm sure you are realizing what I'm trying to make you understand, right? Okay, that's it. Okay. Anyways, we attempt to look at the stories and struggles. Obviously, in this chapter, we're going to understand the stories of struggles. We're going to understand the achievements, right? That these sections of the society achieved, and government did help them in getting achievement, right? Eventually, right? So I'm sure you have got the idea regarding this particular chapter. I'm sure you've got the outline or kind of idea, or kind of you've understood the introduction, what I wanted to tell you or what I wanted to discuss with you. All right. Okay. So what is okay? Now the first thing that comes in this chapter is okay. So first thing that comes in this chapter is what is social about social inequality and exclusion. I've already told you that there is a pattern of social inequality and exclusion in our society. Why that pattern has been formed, why that pattern has been formulated, it has been formulated by the society itself, right? Because maybe I believe that education may be the reason. People were not enough educated. People were not understanding the issues properly. When a person becomes educated, he definitely understands the things properly. but there are still, there are certain people who, in spite of getting education, don't change much, and that's something that I believe is not at all good, right? So what is social about social inequality and exclusion? So the question comes that, uh, why? What is social? What is social about social inequality and exclusion? Simple answer: it exists in the society, right? That's the reason we call it as social. About social inequality and social exclusion, right? It has three broad answers, right? Social inequality. Look at the screen. Look at your screen, right? Social inequality and exclusion are social because they are not only about individuals but about groups. Now this line has a very deep meaning, this line has a very profound meaning. How we can understand that? Look, when there is a social inequality, is that social inequality related to a particular individual? No, it is related to the entire group. If a person belongs to a certain tribe, if a person belongs to a certain tribe, it is not like discrimination is being done with that particular person only. Discrimination is being done with the entire social tribe group. I'm sure you're understanding. If people say that, you know, there are certain examples, so the entire group comes under discrimination, the entire group comes under social inequality. That's the reason we say that social inequality and exclusion are social, because they are not about individuals but about social groups. I'm sure you have understood this. Okay, after that, what we can understand, there are they are social in the sense that they are not economical, although there is usually a strong link between social and economic inequality. Look, nowadays things have changed. How things have changed? Earlier, when social inequality was there, earlier when social exclusion was there, it was mostly due to the, the hierarchy, due to the different levels that had already been set up in the society. Earlier, the social inequality was done not on the basis of economy, right? Not on the basis of economic terms. But now we have understood, although that's the reason now it is written that although there is a usually a strong link between social and economic inequality, nowadays what happens? Inequality has changed its version. Inequality has changed its actually essence. Inequality has changed its nature. Nowadays uh, people do discrimination by looking at the economic level of a person, right? Nowadays, social inequality is something that is related to economic inequality. Earlier, economic inequality was not so much prevailing, what was not so much, dominating in the society. Earlier, the groups were already set up, like these are SCs, so they should be treated like that. These are STs, so they should be treated like that. Nowadays, things have changed. Nowadays, there's a strong link between social and economic inequality. Nowadays, social inequality gives rise to economic inequality gives rise to social inequality, right? So 2 points tells us that it is called as social equality and social exclusion. They are called as social because they are not about individuals but about groups. And second point tells us that they are not economic, although nowadays economic aspect is there, but they were actually social in the sense, right? Now third point, this point says is that they are systematic and structured. This is what I was talking about. Things were already set up. Things, varnas, Brahmin, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, right? Things were already being set up, right? They were there in the structure. So there is a definite pattern to social inequality. Because things were set up, because things were systematic, that's the reason people were blindly, I would definitely use this word, people were blindly, following uh, you know, the, the structures, the rules and regulations that were set up at that particular time. So I'm sure now you have understood the 3 points. I've given you enough articulation. I've given you enough explanation of these points, right? Okay. So that's how, question comes, what is social about social inequality? I've told you what is social about social inequality and social exclusion, and I'm sure now you will definitely able to understand what this particular question means. What is social about social inequality and exclusion? Okay, it can come in the combined form, it can come, as a specific or individual form as well. Okay, now moving on to the third slide, right? Moving on to the third slide, social inequality. Now we understood that what is social about social inequality and social exclusion. Now we can understand what is social inequality. It should not be a difficult thing to for you to understand. In every society, look at your screen, right? Concentrate on your screen. uh, I really want to tell you one thing. Look, don't 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 actually get confused. Don't actually think a lot that why I'm speaking this particular language. Look, I speak in such a way, I always speak in such a way that everyone understands me. I always speak in such a way. I always speak in a way that everyone should understand me. No matter I'm speaking this particular language, no matter I'm speaking English, there are certain reasons why I'm speaking English. I'm speaking English so that you can also understand the things as they are. Because you know what happens, since you all know that you're going to write English in your exams, right? You are all in English medium school. I was also a student of this school, just like you are. So I know the importance of this language. It's important. Just listen me properly. Just listen me carefully. You will definitely understand everything, right? I can assure you that. I can guarantee you that you will definitely understand everything, right? Because I speak in such a way that you all understand, right? So don't get confused if I'm speaking this particular language. I'm gonna speak this language in a very simple term. I'm gonna speak this language in a very simple way, right? You're gonna understand that, right? Okay. So because if you will listen me like this, it is definitely going to help you. Why I'm speaking English, why I always speak English every time I take your class. Because when you will listen me in this language, then what will happen in your exams? The things that I've discussed with you, the things that I have discussed with you, you are definitely going to feel the sentences, feel the things that I've discussed with you. So it's definitely going to help you in your exam to actually recall, to recapitulate what I am telling you, right? So this is what I wanted to tell you. So social inequality in every society, some people have a greater share of valued resources, money, poverty, education, health, and power, and than others, right? These social resources can be divided into three forms of capital. Look, in every society, some people have more money, some people have more property, some people have better education, some people have better health facilities, some people have better power, right? So what that brings in society, that brings inequality. Just listen me properly, right? You're definitely going to understand everything. I just need your cooperation in terms of what? In terms of listening me properly, in terms of being vigilant in the class, alert in the class, and rest you can keep on my shoulders, right? I'm going to make you understand everything, right? So okay. uh, okay, so I've got the message. Okay, sir. Okay. So what I was telling you. Okay. So all those resources, listen me, all those resources that are in the form of money, power, property, education, health, and power, all these resources are divided into three categories: economic resource. Resource can be a capital, right? Economic capital or economic resource, cultural capital, social capital. Now under economic capital, your property comes, your income comes, the material assets that you have in the form of property, right? So income and all those things that are related to money, that is related to money, obviously, that is related to money, that is related to property, comes under economic capital, right? Then we talk about cultural capital, such as educational qualifications and status. Uh, Now under cultural capital, we understand the educational qualifications. Now how we can relate it to the cultural capital? Now if it is more likely, what more likely happens when parents are educated. It is most likely that their children are definitely going to get education as well, right? they are more likely to get good education. So it is something that is related to culture. If family is educated, their children offsprings are also going to get education. So that's the reason it's something related to culture, right? And when we talk about social capital, then it's all about how much social a particular person is, how much connections, how much contacts he has with the different people, with the different institutions, with the different associations, right? Social capital talks about the networks or connections that we have, with different people, the social associations, right, that are there in the society. So I'm sure you have understood the three forms of capital: economic capital, cultural capital, and social capital. And look at that, this last line is very important. This unequal access to social resources are commonly called as social inequality. So as easy as you can understand this, people who have better access to all these three kinds of capital, and people who don't have better access to all these three capitals, obviously it is going to give rise to inequality, right? It is definitely going to give rise to inequality. So when we understand social inequality and we understand the access of people, or the extent of access of people that people have regarding all these things, I'm sure you've understood this as well. Okay, so now let's move forward to understand the next slide. This social inequality, so I'm sure you have understood the social inequality. Now this social inequality differentiates individuals to certain categories. Now categories means hierarchy, right? Hierarchy means levels, right? Now this social inequality has produced what? This social inequality has produced categories. It has produced certain levels, that leads to social stratification. Now stratification means to stratify people. To stratify people means to divide people, right? So when people are divided, when people are stratified, then this is what social stratification is all about. And why social stratification happens? It happens due to the social inequality. And what happens in social stratification? There are certain hierarchies, there are certain categories, right? That comes out of that, right? And there are certain principles that explain social stratification. Now, what are those three principles? There are three key principles that explain social stratification. Social stratification is a characteristics of society. I'm sure you will able to relate this. You will able to understand this. Social stratification is a characteristics of society, not simply a function of individual differences. Okay, now social stratification is very much, is existing in the society, is very much a characteristics of society. It's not because of individual differences. It's not just because of the individual differences. Apart from individual differences, whatever society has set up, or whatever, these three capitals that have been set up, the society actually plays role in the social stratification. Social stratification is the characteristics of society, not simply a function of individual differences, right? Okay, social stratification persists over generation. It is closely linked to the family and to the inheritance of social resources. For the indication, it is closely linked to the family and to the inheritance of the social resources from one generation to another. I've already discussed these lines. You know what happens whenever I see any topic, whenever I see any concept, I try to explain it as much as I can. I always try to explain everything regarding it. That's the reason I always come across the statements that I've already discussed with you, or I've already discussed these lines with you, that it is closely linked to the family. If I've given you the example of education, that if a particular a family has got the education, he's definitely going to you know try to educate their his or her children, or their children, right? And different resources are, they go from generation to generation. If a person is owning a factory, he's definitely going to give that factory, he's definitely going to give that property asset to his children, right? If a person is owning a shop or any kind of property, he's definitely going to give it to the next generation, right? So this is what this actually means. Social segregation persists over generation is slowly linked to the family and to the inheritance of the one generation. Now you can really understand the third concept. Social stratification is supported by the patterns of beliefs and ideology. No system of social stratification is likely to persist over generation unless it is widely viewed as being either is widely as for generations, unless it is widely viewed as being either fair or inevitable. Look, why social stratification happens? It happens due to the support that it gets from the belief, that it gets from the ideology. why that institution of caste was carried on, why that institution of caste was carried on, because people were supporting the belief that yes, the institution of caste is going on, people should be treated like this, there should be discrimination. There were certain sections of the society which were supporting this caste system. That's the reason it still prevails in India. That's the reason it's still going on in India. Why? Because of the belief of the people, because of the ideology that people have in their minds, right? So that's the reason. So you got to understand this social stratification, or when society is divided, it is somewhere supported by the patterns of belief, somewhere supported by the ideology, right? So that's what happened. So remember that no system of social stratification is likely to persist. So, so what does it mean? It means that no system or no social stratification can exist unless it is viewed as being fair or inevitable. So it just means that social stratification is supported by the beliefs and ideology, right? So these are the three principles on which social stratification works, right? So what this means, people either consider that it is fair, that it is good, it is good, or it is quite acceptable to do discrimination on the basis of caste. People feel it like that, or people feel that it is something that is inevitable, sure to happen. Uh, Discrimination on the caste is going on, it is inevitable, sure to happen. Discrimination on the caste is going on, it is fair. So people think that it is fair, and people think that it is inevitable. That's the reason it carries on. You know, it carries on from one generation to another because it is supported by belief and ideology, right? Okay. So what we have understood this. Okay, the three principles of social stratification. Okay. So after that, okay. So next concept, we are gonna study these two slides only. Okay, then we're gonna end this session, right? Now people often harbor, look, I've written the meaning of harbor also. People often harbor means they keep in their mind prejudices. Now what do you mean by prejudice? Prejudice means prejudgment that is there in their mind. Many people say that women don't know how to drive, right? These are the prejudices that are there in their mind. Many people say that that section of the society is not talented society. People often think that. So what is this? This is prejudices, right? This is prejudices. Now people often keep or harbor prejudices about their social groups. If each of us grows up as a member of community from which we acquire ideas not just about our communities but about our. My battery is getting low. Let me keep it on a charge. Okay. So what I was telling you, I think we should end this session right here because we are just left with 4 minutes. We'll discuss all these things in the next class. Okay. So until then, take care all. I've got the message. Okay. So until then, take care all. Stay safe, stay at home, and kindly study hard because you are in 12th standard. Let me stop the share. You all are in 12th standard. You can't take things for granted. You have to study. Your exams are definitely going to happen. Don't think that your exams are not going to happen. The situation is going to become, good, favorable for the human beings. Maybe 1 or 2 months will be there, but no problem. You are definitely going to and what I mean to say here is that you have to study hard and utilize your time, revise it as much as you can. So until then, take care all, stay safe, and kindly attend the class at the right time, right? Because since you all know that we have limited time, so kindly attend the class and also tell your mates or classmates to attend the class at the right time. So until then, take care all, stay safe, stay at home, and study hard, right? Okay, bye bye, bye bye.